I play a character named Guy, who is a kind of wandering sort of scavenger that they meet in the first movie, and I fall in love with the character of Eep, who's played by Emma Stone. And Guy is a little bit more advanced than the Croods. He's been on his own forever, so he's cultivated all these other aspects of his personality and his I guess his arsenal of survival techniques are a little bit more advanced than the Croods. So he ends up being folded into their family in the first movie, and this movie is an extension of that. We pick up where we left off. Oh, it's so fun to slip back into the shoes of Guy, whatever those shoes are. I think there's some sort of hauled out bare feet or something. It's a little disturbing. It was like kind of, again, it's when you're doing a sequel to a film, it's always a great experience because so much of the blueprint and the groundwork's already been laid out for you, and you've established it in the first movie. So, I loved jumping back in there with these guys. Joel Crawford, our amazing director, and I always think of animated movies, they're like dance floors. You just get out there and you sort of freestyle. Animated movies I love because they're kind of written a little bit more slowly than a typical film. I sort of think of it like carving. You're kind of whittling away at this chunk of wood, and then it finally takes its shape and becomes the thing that it's meant to become. And that's at least my experience working on animated feature films. It's so much fun to work like that, to have that kind of time to do that as well, because they take a lot longer than a normal film. The cast is exceptional. I mean, I can't think of a more indelible voice than Nicolas Cage, or Emma Stone, or Larissa Leachman. These are all people that are legends in their own right, and the downside to working on a film like this or these animated types of films is that you don't spend a lot of time as a cast together, but you really get a sense of each other in hearing the other performances. So you're recording it over the course of 2-3 years, and you sort of have these little bookmarks along the way as to what your fellow castmates are doing with their characters, and you just you try to bring something to the table each time. So. I think they'll be pretty excited. I mean, the Croods in this film, in Croods 2, they meet another family called the Bettermans, and they are in fact better in many, many ways. So we go on a bit of adventure with that. It's a bit of a culture clash between these two families, and I think there's a lot of oddly relatable types of things that happen when two clans clash like this. So I think people are going to really enjoy that dynamic and that interplay between these two groups.
I play Eep, who is in the Croods family, and she is a cave girl, and she is rambunctious and ferocious and very, very brave. And she is on a big adventure in this movie. She's learning a lot about herself through love and heartbreak and making a new friend for the first time outside of her family. So it's a big journey for Eve in this story. It was very fun coming back to play Eve because it doesn't feel like much time has gone by at all once you get back into the room to record. It just sort of feels like we've been doing this for 10 years. So it's really, really fun. And she's so over the top and so wild that going in there is like a huge energy boost every time getting to play her. So it was, it's always fun. It's always fun to play Eve. The cast itself is so fun. The original Croods cast is all back. With Nicolas Cage, Catherine Keener, and Clark Duke, and there's lots of wonderful people. Ryan Reynolds, obviously, but our new additions in the Bettermans. You have Peter Dinklage and Leslie Mann and Kelly Marie Tran, and it's just they're so funny. Leslie and Peter Dinklage have some of the funniest little like sequences and lines in this movie that really had me laughing out loud, and they're just a blast. They're such a great addition to to the movie. So it was a very lucky break that they joined. My favorite was the kind of the scene where Kelly and I got to go wild and, you know, jump the wall and get into trouble, and she gets her first scar. That was really fun just because the energy builds and builds and builds and builds. And it made me laugh really hard in the room with Joel, our director. Just like recording that entire scene was so much fun. Yeah, the visuals in this one, I keep saying this, that it surprised me watching it how psychedelic it is. There's all these sort of, you know, when they get to the Bettermans area and they're in the farm and they're eating all of the food, it's just, I mean, it's hilarious because it's like a total trip that they're on. But it was so beautiful to watch, and it's so colorful, and it also introduces new colors that you didn't even see in the first movie, because you're so in sort of the caveman world in the first movie, and this just expands to a whole new palette of like aqua and pinks and things that we just didn't see before. So it's very fun to watch. Eep and Dawn, it's Eep's first ever, or I guess it's probably the first ever, because that's the fun thing about the Croods is that everything is the first ever female friendship. They're, you know, immediately bonded, which is so beautiful. The way, you know, the way it's set up is sort of it's kind of a mislead. You think that they're gonna be fighting with each other or be competitive with each other, and they're not at all. And Eep gets so excited to have a girlfriend, and so does Dawn. And they're complete opposites, but they really complement each other. And Eep helps to bring Dawn out of her shell, and Dawn teaches Eep so much. It's just such a sweet relationship, and definitely is my favorite part of the movie. It's such a funny way to go about things. Like, how did this begin? How did this element begin? What was the first heartbreak? What was the first journal? You know, so there's a lot of great things to explore. And I think it's also so exciting for the animators and for the writers to create these animals that don't really exist, or the firsts that, you know, are like coming up with the backstory of how this happened for the first time. It's really special in the movie, and I think is what makes it so original. My favorite has always been Belt. It doesn't change. I can't help it. He's so funny. He's so cute. But there's so many great new wild animals, like the wolf spiders. That whole scene is so creepy until you realize that they're just very sweet. So yeah, there's a lot of really fun animals, and the creativity is just off the charts. I'm so excited for people to see this movie. And especially right now, it feels like a great time to, you know, have a movie that is so funny and so sweet and uplifting, and so many great messages. And you can just you can hang out with your family and you can watch a movie that really is very funny for adults, but also so great for kids. I think it's a great, you know, it's a great feeling that movie's coming out now. The Thunder Sisters and women bonding together is truly a tale as old as time, but one maybe you don't see. Obviously, the Thunder Sisters are in a very specific circumstance, but women banding together to get things done has been happening since forever. And it's really special to see that in a movie. You know, it's great to see women kind of swoop in and save the day. And yeah, so I think that's great for both girls and boys to see that, you know, women can do anything.
Grug is kind of one of the world's first Homo sapien fathers. I'm sure there were other Cro-Magnon, or I'm not entirely sure what Grug is. Is he Neanderthal or Cro-Magnon? But whatever he is, he's one of the first of our great grandfathers. And he is like most caring fathers, very concerned about the family dynamic. He wants his family to be safe. Survival it's a big S in this equation. He wants all of his family members to be safe, and sometimes he goes too far with that because he is so protective that it can be at times stifling, particularly for Emma's character, Eep, because he just doesn't want her engaging with anything outside of the family circle, which brings in Ryan's character. And I think one of the things that I like about this version of the Croods family dynamic is that when we meet Grug now, he has accepted Ryan's Guy character to some extent. He has learned to be less in fear of others and those that don't look like the Grug family, and to be I don't want to use a word like xenophobic, but that he is more open to the concept of different groups and different people, and I think that's a great progression for this character. Joel, who was directing, he brought so much vivaciousness and verve in a humorous way to this version of the movie that I'm thrilled with it. And I saw the finished result multiple times, and I think it's just a big box of happy. And especially at a time like this, I think this movie is going to bring a lot of smiles to a lot of faces, and our own families all over the world will be able to enjoy this and get some needed happiness. One of the new elements to this version of the Croods is the concept of neighbors, which is something that we all experience in modern society. The idea of neighbors, Halloween is the only holiday where you get to enjoy the exchange of gifts with total strangers, really, but that are your neighbors, which is one of the reasons why I love the holiday. In this movie, Grug has to learn to cooperate and coexist with neighbors. And Peter, who plays Phil Betterman, is absolutely hilarious as my neighbor, Phil. So it goes into areas that I think anybody can relate to. All over the world, societies, cultures can relate to what the Croods family and the Betterman family are experiencing, and what Guy is experiencing, and what Eep is experiencing. All of them bring their characters back in a way that is highly relatable and funny. It's one of those things that is both comical and annoying, where where sometimes guys get into a sort of foolish but comical one-upmanship attitude, and which I never really like personally, but it's there, it exists, it's a real thing. And with Grug, the thing that he really has to offer is his strength, but more importantly, his gigantic heart and his love for family. That's his true strength, but also his physical strength. And if there's anything that he can show off, it's that, his brawn. Whereas Phil is the much more, Peter's character is a much more sophisticated, thoughtful. His strength is his sophistication, his thoughts, but he has all the fun stuff. He has all the toys, all the gadgets. The elevator, the so-called window, which becomes a kind of mock version of the computer screen. The dining room table, the house with the tree, the view, the tree house. I mean, the so-called man cave, all these things which he can sort of one up Grug with. I want them to be happy. Happiness. Let's bring it. Let's all get together in our homes, or and watch this movie and get the popcorn, and let's have fun, and let's smile, and let's laugh, because it's not all doom and gloom. There are good things out there that we can be happy about and we can celebrate together. And I think Croods 2 is one of them.
I play Hope Betterman, and she believes that she is better in every way than everyone else. And she is a loving mother, maybe a little suffocating at times, and thinks that she knows best, but doesn't always know best. So fun. So I watched, when my girls were little. My kids are now 22 and 18, but we watched the Croods when they were growing up, and it was like a staple in our house. And so when they asked me to join, I was thrilled, and I love doing voiceover work. So I was super excited. I just really loved the movie. I watched it again this morning, and it's like so happy and such a great escape from reality. And it just makes you feel good, and it makes you happy. And we need that right now. When we first meet, Catherine Keener's character and my character seem very different. And through getting to know one another, we realize that we have a lot to learn from each other, and that we are very much the same. At the end of the day, we're just people, and we want to be loved, and we want to be happy and close with our families, and we're very much the same. I'm excited for everyone to see this movie because it feels good. It makes you happy. And it's one of those movies that you can watch with your entire family, and you can watch on Thanksgiving, because we're all looking to watch a movie together on Thanksgiving. And you don't have to cover the kids' ears, and you don't have to worry about, the adults getting bored, because it's great for adults and it's great for kids, and it's the perfect family movie. I would watch the movie on my own without kids. So if that says anything, I would.
I play Thunk, who is a very sweet, innocent boy who's kind of naivete guides him through life and makes sure that he's always having a pretty good time. I know it's been like 7 years since the first film came out, but it doesn't feel that long for me, because the reality of recording animation is there's always a big delay between the voiceover recording and the movie coming out. So it doesn't feel like it's been that long for me. Thankfully, I didn't smoke so much that my voice changed and I couldn't voice Thunk anymore. But it was not too hard to get back into the character. It's sort of just like a very childlike, kind of dumb version of me. So it was pretty easy to slip right back into him. Yeah, it's I think that was one of the biggest strengths of the first film, was just how great the cast was, and what a unique kind of cast it is. To me, starting with Nick Cage, who's one of the all-time great voices in general. So to have him kind of top line in your voice cast is pretty awesome. The characters and the voices that they've added for this movie are great too. You got Peter Dinklage, Leslie Mann, Kelly Marie Tran. I thought Leslie Mann was especially great. I haven't heard her do a lot of animation or voiceover work before, but she's excellent at it. That was my biggest takeaway from watching the film. Yeah, I think this movie took what was great about the first film, which was, the cast and the world and everything that went with that, and And, you know, in this film, you're kind of freed from having to tell that origin story, you know, and the characters are established. So now almost in like a act 2 sort of way, you can just get into the fun stuff. So, you know, now that we know who the Croods are, we can put them in a new situation and see how they react to it. So like seeing them interact with another family, you know, not just one other person, but a whole other family in a new locale and a new, like basically a new culture and way of life. I thought that was really fun to play with. And the way that they just expanded on the world, you know, with all the like creatures and animals they encounter. And, you know, just visually, the movie is bigger and brighter and kind of more dynamic and exciting. And just kind of like, I personally enjoyed that it just felt a little looser and shaggier than the first movie, in a really good way. Like it's funnier. It's a much funnier movie than the first one. Yeah, I mean, just based on when the movie takes place, you know, anything they come upon or invent or play with is kind of the first elevator, the first man cave, literal man cave. My character Thunk invents basically the first, you know, laptop, tablet, iPhone with window. So that's fun to watch happen. The trick of all the stuff that's like all the funny firsts you have in the film, for me, for Thunk is always a question of does Thunk know this word, like to describe the thing that we're talking about? Like that's always a funny balance of like, how many words does Thunk know? Like I'm really excited for fans to finally see this movie. You know, any animation takes such a long time to come to fruition, so it's fun for me just to like prove to my friends and family like that this is real. I was actually working on this for the past few years. I did not make it up.
I played Dawn Betterman. She is a new character in the Croods series, and she is a very overprotected girl who then meets Eep and is sort of opened up into the reality of the world during the Cretaceous period, which is apparently very dangerous. So she sort of gets to learn about scars and adventures, and she goes on a series of adventures with Eep and views the world from this place of childlike wonder. And she's very excitable and enthusiastic. And yeah, I'm really excited for people to meet her. It feels really special. I mean, the cast is incredible. And I just had the most fun working on this project and just finding this character with Joel and Mark. And then, you know, I feel like every time I got to go and record, it was just having fun and improvising and figuring out what the character was. And then now to sort of see the finished product, it's pretty rad. My favorite sequence is the Thunder Sister sequence, and just being able to like get rowdy and wild and just scream and then watching the animation afterwards and just seeing how beautiful and how colorful and how loud it is. It's just a great, empowering scene. Obviously, there's new characters in this one, and because of that, the Croods sort of are entering into this sort of new world, meeting this new family that lives a very different way, and then they are also going on a series of adventures. And it feels like almost from the last movie to this one, like the world has really expanded. And yeah, there's just so many beautiful moments of, especially like Eep and Dawn riding on the Death Cat and having this crazy, like the world's first joyride. And I think there are a lot of moments in this movie that are not only funny and uplifting, but just really expand the colors and the animals and the experience of what it is to live during this time period. It's pretty cool. Love the butterfly trees. Yeah, there's so many moments like that where it's really cool to sort of play Dawn and to see the world through her eyes, because she is really seeing all of these incredible things for the first time. And I think that is almost like a a stand-in for the audience who's also watching this for the first time and seeing like the chicken seals and the wolf spiders and all these sort of magical creatures that the amazing animation and story team created. And so it's pretty cool to, I'm really excited for everyone to see it. Everyone on the film and the filmmakers particularly were very, very thoughtful about that, and very thoughtful about the ways in which we depicted female friendship, because historically there sort of has been this pattern of pitting female characters against each other, which just isn't true to life, at least in my experience. So it's pretty cool to see, and as a fan of animated movies, see these two female characters who you think are going to end up fighting over a male character, but then end up just being really excited to meet each other and to have this sort of companionship. And they have a really beautiful way of sort of giving and taking in their relationship. Like Eep is very different than Dawn, and yet they allow each other to shine in moments and to teach each other things. And they're very supportive of each other. And I think that's really beautiful. It feels really, really otherworldly and sort of insane to be part of the same project as a lot of them. But I think when you watch this movie, you'll be able to see just how specific everyone's work is and how different all the characters are. And they really do come to life and, through the voices of these incredible actors. So it's gonna be awesome. Larissa Leachman, I was obsessed with Gran. I think Gran is like the best character in animation history. I just think she's so different and sort of a wild card, and I just love her character and I love her performance. I think that people are really gonna love her. I felt so empowered. I also was having the funnest time watching it. Like, it's such a funny movie. It's so entertaining. The colors are really eye-catching. The environments are beautifully created, and the performances are so fun. And there's a lot of humor in this movie. It's hilarious that even as an adult watching this movie, there were things I wanted to quote after to my friends. So I'm really excited for people to see it. I think that sequence in particular, when all of the women sort of come together and they have this wild fight sequence and everyone's sort of contributing and everyone gets a moment in the spotlight, it just felt so good to watch. And I was truly having a great time. I can't wait for people to see that sequence in particular. Really excited. I think that it's uplifting, it's funny, there's really surprising moments, and I think that people are really gonna like it. I think it's also something that the world kind of needs right now in terms of feel-good family fun.
The Croods: A New Age, or the Croods 2, is really a continuation of where Croods 1 left off, where the family, the Croods, are traveling the world and they're searching for a perfect place to call home. And they've faced all kinds of dangerous creatures and environments, but they come across something that really challenges the Croods as a tight family unit, and that's coming across another family, a more evolved family named the Bettermans. When making a sequel, it can be hard to kind of crack that what's an important continuation for the Croods. And for us, it was unlocking that the idea of change. The first Croods is all about the world changing and the Croods fighting to stay together as a pack. And once we've discovered this moment of them coming across another family, it seemed like the perfect thing to challenge every aspect of their worldview, especially this other family that has this better life and, introduces Thunk to a window, which is essentially a tablet. And, Eep and Guy, there's so much change going on with them where they're ready to start their own home and leave the pack. And, the father, Grug, is not ready for that. And so it seemed like there was so much story to continue from the first movie. It was definitely a lot to take on, not only first time directing an animated feature, but also to follow up Croods 1, which I'm such a fan of. I gotta say that for me and Mark, the great thing was we could approach the movie as fans because we both didn't work on the first. And so that was like a fun kind of kickoff point where we were like, well, now we can continue everything we love about the Croods. And I'd say that also having Chris Sanders early on in the process, giving notes and telling me kind of avenues he's tried to explore with the characters was great to hand it off. But with that said, it's still, these movies are so big, it's hard to get your arms around both ends of it when you're telling the story. And so that was the daunting thing for me. The encouraging thing was the amazing team I was surrounded by. And once I realized, Mark's a fantastic producer and friend now. We met 3 years ago when we paired up to work on this, but also every supervisor and lead on this movie was just such a specialist that once I embraced that, it was just awesome to see, the movie elevate itself just from all the talent. Mark and I were talking about what's the truth of these characters. And, you got Eep, who's traveling the world, a cave girl, not coming across any other teenagers. And she sees another girl, and that she would just be incredibly excited to have a new best friend. And once we made that big change, it drastically affected the whole story to where there wasn't this kind of forced negativity. And it really unlocked how much fun we could have, not only with Eep and Dawn, but all of these characters coming across each other and the weird quirks and flaws that they kind of end up embracing about each other. And I'd say on the kind of female empowerment message in this, we wanted to make sure it wasn't coming from a place of preachiness or being forced. It really comes from the bigger story is about unity and it's about friendship. And it felt right to unite all of the women in the sisterhood in a crazy way, but it's them uniting under sisterhood. And the same happens with Grug and Phil under brotherhood. They're literally just calling each other bro way too much. But it felt like that was the journey of uniting not just families, but characters together.
Really this idea of the Croods, who are the last caveman family, meeting the first modern family. And that seemed a really interesting world for us of how these two different opposing views could come together. So I think that was really the thing that whetted our appetite. We were always trying to make sure that the technology somehow seemed believable. I think with the Flintstones, you get it's a living record player type thing. And so we were trying to draw that balance of what would be amazing to the Croods, but as an audience, we could buy that there is a rope bridge and there is a swing and there is an elevator and that type of thing. What's really fun about the Thunder Sisters, and a lot of the stories we tell in the movies, we push the females as far as we push the males. Sometimes there's a convention that the guys can be, they're the silly ones and the female ones are more sensible. There's no one as crazy as Gran in this movie, and I love her story of, she's, in some ways, she's the one that has the most insight in how to solve this. In her own way, she is trying to pull this team together. She does it in the most absurd, crazy way, and you don't know if she's talking the truth when she's talking about her past. And suddenly for these women to embrace Gran and embrace this more tribal side of them was a whole lot of fun. And the music, I mean, we kind of approached it as, Yeah, they're kick-ass. But like the visual inspiration was like Iron Maiden covers and really pushing how far we could go and make it like, 1970s, 1980s heavy metal, even the music choices that we made. So I think that was a huge amount of fun for us at the end.
Hey, stay with me as I have a cool movie extra fact. Now, the Disney film Who Framed Roger Rabbit was responsible for revitalising the Disney company's reputation for the way it combined live action and animation. The process took a long time, however. While physical filming took just over 7 months, the post-production step of adding in the animation took 14 months. Now, wow. Click here below to subscribe or on the side for more great content.